Hi everybody, welcome to J&S Farms, and today I am going to be continuing my series on So You Want to Homestead, and this is video number 2, and we'll be talking about acquiring your homestead. Now at this point you should probably already have your plan and your goals lined out, so you know kind of what kind of property you're going to need or want. And that really does help in the decision making for buying a property. Now, if you already got your property and you've got your plan and your goal, that's fantastic. I don't know how much use this video would be to you, but you're more than welcome to watch it. So, one of the first things after you get your goals and your plan set up is you need to look at your finances and see what you can afford. You don't really want to go looking at homesteads before that, because if you fall in love with a piece of property and you can't afford it, that's going to be pretty heartbreaking to figure out that you can't afford it, and nothing else will measure up. It's one of those things, it is heartbreaking. We had a similar situation. We could afford the property, but it was an Amish built home and it was off-grid, and the institution that we decided, or the institution that we were getting our loan through, would not finance it because it did not have electricity run to the house. So I was pretty heartbroken. I was in love with that house and the property that it came with. But luckily we found this place and we fell in love with it too. So really know what you can afford before you look. Let's see here. Now when you're looking for property, there's several different ways you can go about it. You can get a realtor, which is what we did. She was a really nice lady, and we drug her all over the countryside, the poor woman. We looked at a lot of places before we found that one place that really spoke to us, and we're currently here. So there's also the internet. There's lots of sites that you can go and look for property for sale. Let's see here. There's social media, Facebook and things like that. There's several different things on there that you can go look at. Let's see. And then there's the old drive around the countryside, and if you find something for sale by owner, that's great too. You can always stop at some of the local houses and ask, hey, do you know of any property for sale around here? We like the area. Most people are very forthcoming and will tell you of a few places that they may know of, and that's another good way. There's also bulletin boards in local feed stores or places like that, hardware stores. People do put up for sale by owner in those places in the local areas. So those are some of the things that I would maybe pay attention to if you're wanting a certain area. And before you find a piece of property, you kind of need to know what you're looking for. That kind of helps you narrow down the search. Know your price range, know what you want, how many acres, different things like that. And don't sway from it. Don't settle for something just because you can't find what you want. It will come and you will find it. We were 3 months looking for our perfect property, and it was kind of frustrating, but we didn't settle for something that wasn't for us. So don't give up. You will find a place that you will fall in love with. Okay. Alright. Say you find your potential property. Okay. Now when you get there to look at it, there's a few things that you might want to look for once you get there. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, does it have potential? because some of the properties that you're going to see are very neglected. You have to see past the rough and see the diamond. That's how our property was here. The pastures were extremely neglected. There was a lot of things that needed to be done to the property and to the house that we were purchasing. And the shed out back was in, I mean, the structure is just fine, so we're going to we've already redone the roof, and we're going to redo the siding this fall, and then we'll gut it and completely redo it on the inside as well. But if you're willing to put the time and elbow grease into fixing up a place, sometimes you can get really good deals that way too. So just if you can envision what the property is going to look like, even though it looks not so great when you first see it, keep an open mind, because it can really be beautiful when you put a little elbow grease to it. You need to think about the location of the property. How far out do you want to be? How far do you want to drive to get to a hospital or to civilization? You know, some people don't want to be near civilization, and that's okay. But we are 30 minutes from the nearest big city, and that's far enough, and that's where my husband works. He's got a 30-minute drive to work every morning. So, then you need to probably look at the terrain. Will the terrain suit my needs? Say if you want to be a market gardener, and this property has mostly north-facing slopes on the property. It's not flat. It doesn't have a slightly south-facing slope. It's probably not the property you're going to want. Now, if you're going to run cattle, that north-facing property is not going to affect you that much. So just know the terrain and know kind of what your goals are going to be. And an easy way to do that is to get an aerial view. Most realtors, you can ask them before you go see the property, hey, can you grab an aerial for me? And they'll do that for you. And then you need to know the water situation on the property. Know if there's any creeks that dry up in the summer, ponds, little marsh areas on the property. You need to know kind of what the water situation is on the property, because that is very important. Water is a very important resource. Let's see, you probably want to try and picture how you're going to work the property. To kind of try and envision what it might be like living there. You need to pay attention to some of the native plants that are growing around. They're gonna be your first indicators of the kind of soil that you're going to have on this property. A lot of them, if you see a whole bunch of something growing in one area and then a whole bunch of something else growing in another area, that's really going to kind of give you an idea of what your soil's kind of like, because different plants like to grow in different situations. So kind of pay attention to that, and also try and get a soil sample if you can, if you want to. Or you can just kind of take a leap of faith like we did and just work with the soil you have. So you probably need to know how much open to wooded land there is. If you're going to run goats or pigs, wooded areas are good places for those. If you're going to graze cattle, open fields are kind of what you want, with a few trees scattered in between. If you're going to... Oh, excuse me. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. If you're going to want to be a market gardener, you're going to want more open space for that. And you want it, you know, slightly south-facing slope and kind of flat, but with good drainage. Okay. Does it have perimeter fences? If it already has perimeter fences, that's going to save you a lot of time and money. Trust me. Perimeter fences are a little expensive. We're slowly replacing our hot wire fences with permanent fencing for the perimeter fences. And that's going to be really nice, because if the electric fence goes down, you run the risk of the animals getting out. Ours are pretty good about staying in, but they always, calves are usually the instigators in that, because they don't respect the hot wire as much as the older cows do. Okay, you need to know the zoning restrictions and any deed restrictions that may come with the property. If you buy your property to run cattle or livestock on it, and it's not zoned for that, your property is worthless to you. So pay attention to that. Is there any electric run to the property? Now, if you want to live off grid, then this doesn't apply to you, but having electricity hooked up to a property is very expensive. So check to see if the electricity is already run to the property. Let's see here. Are there any easements running through the property? This one's kind of important, because if there are easements, you need to look into what the contract says for these easements and stuff like that. So it's actually pretty important that you pay attention to see if there's any easements running through the property. You need to know when the last survey was done, and know your fence laws, because certain states have different laws, fence laws, and sometimes the fence is the property line, but that may not be what the survey says or the deed on the property that you're buying. So you need to make sure you know your fence laws before you buy. Knowing the taxes on the property is helpful, what they are every year. Most rural properties aren't too many taxes, but it just depends on the county that you live in. Will the property come with mineral and timber rights? Here in Missouri, that's not such a big deal, but I know in some states it is. So you need to pay attention to that. You'll want to kind of check into the history of the property if you can. I'm so sorry, the phone is ringing. Let me answer that real quick. Okay, so sorry about that, guys. History of the property. It's kind of important to know the history if you can. It's going to tell you, say, there was a dump over here on it that was cleaned up a few years ago, and that soil might be contaminated. You may not want to put your garden there, or put an animal pen where that was. So it's kind of important, if you can, know the history of the property. Best way to know is talk to the neighbors, and they might be able to share some insight on that. I know we ask a lot of neighbors kind of what the property was like before we got there, and the information that we got from them was it was the yard area was the only part that was being used, and the rest of the property was just kind of neglected for 30 years. So that's kind of the history that we got on our property whenever we purchased it, after we purchased it. And then another thing to take into consideration is the community around you. Kind of know, get a feel for the community before you purchase a property. If you kind of get the heebie-jeebies about some of the neighbors in the area, you know, maybe you don't want to buy that property. That may be why that property's so dirt cheap. You don't really know. So knowing kind of the community, the surrounding area, is kind of a good thing too. So anyway, that's kind of all I got for you there on that. If you have any more suggestions to add, feel free in the comments. And if you maybe have another question or anything like that, feel free to ask. And I will see you in the next video. You guys have a good day. Take care. Bye.